Then from that, it was like, okay, we need some words to capture the feeling of this music. And so that's when I just sat down and wrote the lyrics to Promised Land. Hey, I'm Joe Smooth, and this is the story of Promised Land. Growing up, I would always listen to Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire, and all those old school, musical type shows. And I always liked the music behind those shows. One year, my mother decided to buy us a piano. And it wasn't necessarily for me, it was actually for one of my sisters. So I would be in the house maybe 8-9 hours a day. I'd be playing around on the piano, trying to figure out how to play songs. All my friends were out in the park playing, and I would just try to figure out, how did you make those sounds come together and sound right together? So that's how I kind of started. And so I was like 12 years old, pretty much, when I first got into trying to figure out music. I got into DJing in high school, and we would do like neighborhood events. Like, we would close off a block and just bring equipment outside and throw parties in the street and stuff in our neighborhoods. On the south side of Chicago, you had your DJs, Farley, Steve Hurley, Lil Louis. And for me, I was like, wow, this is really crowded over here. Let me go explore the north side of Chicago. So I ended up going to a club called Smart Bar. Smart Bar opened in '82. Was primarily an alternative rock club. Joe Shanahan was a big supporter of underground dance music. A DJ there named Michael wanted to move to New York. And when Michael moved to New York, Joe was like, Joe, I want to try something different. Why don't you take over one of the nights that he had at Smart Bar? And so I started DJing at Smart Bar. The DJs on the north side didn't mix the way we mixed on the south side. On the north side, there was segue from one record to the next record. And so I was pretty much the only DJ up on the north side who actually knew how to mix records together, which is where the bartenders at some point said, Joe mixes so smoothly, and then the name Joe Smooth manifested, and it just kind of stuck with me from that point. I'm Joe Smooth, DJ, producer, writer, arranger. I've been in the business since who knows how long. What inspired me to make Promised Land? So back in the early days when we were doing all this music, one of the first European tours that we took, English wasn't the native language to a lot of these places. But what I saw was that in performing, music brought everybody together. So coming back off of that tour, I was thinking that I wanted to create a song that kind of spoke to that. I wanted to kind of capture the idea of a classic record. And what was classic to me at that time was like Motown, the whole Motown vibe. So I listened to like a million Motown records and was like, okay, what makes these records the way that they are? When I hear something, I hear the whole thing in my head. And I was just like, okay, let's put this down, so I could program the drums. So I used a Roller 707, a 727, the Ensoniq Mirage, Jupiter 106. That's pretty much it. Then from that, it was like, okay, we need some words to capture the feeling of this music. And so that's when I just sat down and wrote the lyrics to Promised Land. And I will walk the land, and as one, we'll take our stand. When the angels from above fall down and spread their wings like doves. I did another song called Going Down, and I met Anthony at DJ International. And Anthony was one of the guys who came in to audition to do work and projects at DJ International. So when I did the song Going Down, I had him do the vocals. When I had done Promised Land, I originally did the vocal. At that time, I was doing so much stuff in the background, I kind of wanted somebody else to be the lead. So I had Anthony sing Promised Land how I would sing it. From Anthony, I was still hearing something else. So there's another singer, Don Connolly, who's on the record, who actually does the more high-end, the falsetto vocals on the record. One of the times that really stands out to me is when I had got invited to play one of Prince's birthday parties. Andy Warhol came in, Basquiat was in playing Promised Land. Basquiat and Andy Warhol were like, Joe, we really appreciate your music and what you've done musically. And Basquiat gave me a painting out of his appreciation for the music. And Andy Warhol knew that I was a big fan of Basquiat, so he gave me a watercolor painting of Basquiat.
Brothers, sisters, one day we'll all be free.
When Promised Land came out, it was domestically released, and it was received extremely well here in the States. It was also being received well through Europe and the UK, which is how the Style Council got to the record. And what happened was they technically couldn't release a cover of the record until it was released as a domestic record in the UK. The day it was released in the UK, they released their version. And you know, there are positive sides to that, negative sides to that. The original probably didn't get the momentum that it could have gotten because they were both independent charts at the same time. You know, I looked at it as, okay, this is gonna give it a whole different audience. The fact that the Style Council released it on their version on the same day did keep the original version a little more underground.
When the angels from above fall down and spread their wings like dust.
So Promised Land was big in South Africa to the point where when Mandela was released from prison, Mandela's people and CNN contacted me about creating a song to play during his release from prison, which was the song I did called They Want to Be Free. It touched a certain, feeling for the people of Africa. I think the emotion behind it, you know, people were being held down and oppressed, and you had apartheid and a lot going on back at that time. Promised Land is a song of hope. Hope, love, peace, and I think that resounded with the people of Africa. For me, it's a song for the people. It makes me proud that the song has stood the test of time. It has transitioned, you know, over these 40 years, and that it has found a place as a house anthem